Hi, I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Mai.
And this is
True Crime and Other Stuff.
Today we're going to do the news and review.
Yep, this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only.
Warning, there may be some disturbing and graphic content. Viewer discretion is advised.
Yep, please enjoy the video.
That's correct. We don't have cameras in the video. Sorry, we don't have cameras at the hallway. We don't have cameras on the hallway.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as Romero Exhibit Number 1. It's a deposition.
She brought up the situation of her fecal matter on the bed.
Yeah.
And I and she just tried to blame it on the dogs. That's what the opiate does. Your body no longer needs to make the dopamine or the serotonin. The dopamine and serotonin, as you know, I imagine, are things that keep us it gives us our moods. It gives us.
I appreciate that, but my question wasn't that. My question was,
I'm just trying
right
to
after
school
you told the
you.
doctor about your finger injury, you were asking for coke.
The line. So the incident was May 21st, 2016. You saw her the night of May 25th, correct?
You didn't know what could cause damage to Mr. Depp's hand while you were there on March 8th, correct?
Dr. Kipper told me he'd sustained an injury on one of his
Well,
fingers.
objection, hearsay.
He objected on question.
Okay, he said he sustained an injury to his finger.
Come a time that you did move in with him.
Objection leading. Your Honor, I'm going to object on hearsay.
He's my co-star.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay. Objection, hearsay. Her communications are hearsay.
I tried to say that it was fine.
Objection,
that
hearsay.
I found out that he was in a hotel room with Paul Bettany.
Objection, hearsay.
Did you have with Lily Rose without saying anything she said?
Objection, hearsay. Objection, leading.
If we approach and then your kid's in the car on the street, you need to
Objection,
move
hearsay. That calls for hearsay, Your Honor.
When he finished filming, the plan was to do
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay. Objection, form, compound.
And then you went in the house and saw Mr. Depp in the foyer, correct?
Yes, correct.
And Mr. Depp was trying to urinate in the foyer, wasn't he?
No.
No.
Mr. Depp had his penis out of his pants, didn't he?
I think I would remember.
Relevance.
Next question.
And you were trying to get Mr. Depp out of the house, correct?
Oh, Johnny's cracking up.
Correct. I was trying to get Mr. Depp out of the house, yes.
And Mr. Depp was refusing to leave the house, was he not?
Okay.
Not so much refused. He just wanted 2 minutes to say his piece.
You took Mr.
And did you have any discussions with Miss Heard on the way to Coachella that evening?
We had a conversation pertaining to the surprise she left in the boss's bed prior to leaving the apartment.
And when you refer to the surprise in the boss's bed, what are you referring to?
That's how she got
The defecation.
And what did Miss Heard say about the defecation in Mr. Depp's bed?
A horrible practical joke gone wrong.
It was a photograph of the bed, our bed,
Show the photograph.
and on my side of the bed was human fecal matter.
Look at the skin mark.
Who thinks to do
So
something like
I
that?
understood
You gotta be
why
psychotic.
it wasn't a good time to go down there.
Not even just like nasty.
My initial response to that was,
I think crazy people do that. Psychotic.
I mean, I laughed.
I'm gonna tell the whole story how they got there. Before they went and get the keys. They come down. They say, somebody tried to get into my unit. There's scratches on my door. And like, I'm really sorry, but who will think it's gonna get into a unit because it saw some scratches on the door, like, what, 4 inches above the door? Because the dog was scratching the door, was trying to get in, and they thought about someone trying to break into the unit. I said, in my head, I was like, you think someone's trying to get into your unit? There's scratches like 4 inches above the floor and your door. That was the dog trying to get into the unit. They were so afraid. Oh, someone's trying to get into my unit. They're like, oh, come on, really? And I actually, when they asked me to go inside the unit just to check room by room to make sure that no one was there. So I did that.
A few things about Coachella and then the fecal delivery. And saying that it was the dogs. And I could not agree with her. I'd lived with those dogs. I picked up their fun. It was not.
And it was not.
The dogs.
It was
May
not.
24?
Yes.
Yep, that's Tuesday.
But in fact, you don't recall seeing Amber Heard on May 24th, correct?
I don't remember. I don't even remember what I got for breakfast.
Okay. Well, let's pull up exhibit number 1. Let's stay on page 17. That's a good place.
Which color is underneath the other?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
Yes.
Objection. Form. Lack of foundation.
I was in such shock and
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive. Objection. Form. Compound.
I'll allow it, but just trying to keep the record clear. 272 has already been entered into evidence without that redactions, and there wasn't any objection. So if I could have both sides to keep track of their evidence, it's not my job to keep this. It's really the party's responsibility to take care of the record, not mine.
My apologies on that one.
Insider from 2015 that says Johnny Depp has his 5th box office bomb in a row.
If that's what it said, it said. Are you just going to keep reading this?
Well, I mean, this is Mr. Depp's reputation. That's what you're talking about in terms of Hollywood, correct? And in 2016, December of 2016, there's an article that says, quote, Johnny Depp is Hollywood's most overpaid actor for the 2nd year in a row. Did you recall reading that?
I don't know, was that written by the second underpaid actor? Or
and you would agree that before the op-ed, there was negative publicity for Mr. Depp about assassinating President Trump. Would you agree?
No, I missed that one.
No.
You didn't see an article in the New York Times that said Johnny Depp flirts with idea of Trump assassination, then apologizes?
Again, Johnny Depp talks with irony and panache, and I don't particularly remember that. I have a lot of stuff in front of me.
Disney, and you may have been drunk in that video, correct?
There's a possibility of that.
You poured yourself a mega pint of red wine, correct?
A mega pint.
Yeah.
I poured myself a large glass of wine.
Right.
I thought it necessary.
Right.
Felt it necessary. Yeah, I bet.
Yes. I'm not gonna say no because she was really always nice.
All right, this is my last.
Yeah, he's driving.
Nice.
He's like, fuck
All right,
this
this
shit,
is my
I'm
last
tired of
question.
this crap.
You testified in response to Mr. Presidio's questions that you testified truthfully in all of these occasions. Did you testify truthfully to everything that you testified in response to my questions today?
Hell
That's
yeah.
correct.
All right.
I did.
This part. Oh my God.
Well, I don't agree that this article was not about
Did it mention Mr. Depp? That's what I asked you.
Well, does she have another husband who abused her?
But did it talk
2016?
about it? Did it talk at all about Mr. Depp's abuse?
Objection, Your Honor. He's tried to answer the first question, which was not exactly what the second question was that he re-asked. I'd asked that he be permitted to finish.
Ask your question. We'll go from there.
Rocky's boyfriend, who was some sort of chef, he asked her what she would like for him to cook. That's hearsay, I guess.
I'm not just sure if it's offered for the truth of the matter asserted.
He got it.
Okay, all right, well then.
I'm learning.
There you go.
Let me put it a different way. Mr. Drew, who was a chef, which I don't believe is hearsay, Mr. Drew had made Mexican food Ms. Hurd's favorite. Is that better?
Back at that time, 2 months after the incident.
Yes, I remember, because like I say, I always make eye contact with someone that I'm talking to, but I'm not looking to find something like oh, your makeup's wrong, you haven't have changed your eyebrows, or your eyelashes are not even, or I'm not looking for anything. I'm just looking at their eyes, and I'm not looking for anything else. But if I see something, I will probably will remember.
Yeah, it's almost over. All right. That was a first, I'm sorry.
I will say, Your Honor, that is the most bizarre deposition.
Okay, all right, I just gonna say, I've just never seen that before. I've seen a lot of things, but I've just never seen that.
Driving that.
Yeah, that did it.
Tonight, authorities say the alleged shooter planned it all. It started around 2:30 Saturday afternoon in the parking lot of this Tops Friendly Market store in a predominantly black neighborhood in Buffalo. The alleged shooter wearing full body armor and tactical gear, targeting people of color. Zanetta Everhart's 20-year-old son, Zaire Goodman, worked at Tops and was helping an older woman with her groceries in the parking lot. He was shot in the neck, but the bullet didn't cause major damage.
I've protected him his whole life from the ills of the world. And here we have a man, a terrorist, who came into my community, into our neighborhood. Yeah. That's hard. That's hard.
The woman he was helping was killed right in front of him. Neighbors watched it all in horror.
There's a whole lot of shooting. It was just rapid. Just one after just kept going. And next thing you know, we came outside and it was just packed full of people. We saw, dead bodies. They were covered up.
In all, 13 people were shot. 4 were store employees. 10 died. Aaron Salter was a father of 3 and a Buffalo police officer for 30 years. Tonight, he's being hailed as a hero. For the last 4 years, he worked as a security guard at the Tops. Salter tried to stop the gunman.
Fired multiple shots, struck the suspect, but because he had heavily armored plating on, that bullet had no round. The suspect engaged our retired officer, and he was ultimately shot and deceased at the scene.
He worked over 20-something years as a Buffalo police officer and lost his life at Tops. Disgusting to me.
Another who died, 86-year-old Ruth Whitfield, who had stopped at the store after caring for her husband at his nursing home. After all the carnage, the alleged shooter threatened to take his own life, but then dropped his gun and surrendered to police.
An 18-year-old white male has been arrested and charged with first-degree murder for a mass shooting at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York, in what authorities called an act of racially motivated violent extremism. Authorities say at least 10 people have been reported dead from the shooting, which took place in a predominantly black neighborhood in Buffalo on Saturday afternoon. Buffalo Police Commissioner Joseph Gramaglia said the suspect was armed with an assault-style rifle and body armor when he opened fire in the parking lot while live streaming the attack on Twitch.
He worked his way back towards the front of the store. Buffalo police immediately respond, engage the suspect in the vestibule of the store. And at that point, the suspect put the gun to his own neck. Buffalo police personnel, 2 patrol officers, talked the suspect into dropping the gun. He dropped the gun, took off some of his tactical gear, surrendered at that point.
Officials said 11 of the 13 people struck by gunfire were black, and that the attack would be investigated both as a hate crime and an act of racially motivated violent extremism under federal law. Twitch said in a statement that it removed the live stream of the attack less than 2 minutes after it started and was working to ensure no other accounts reposted the content. Speaking at the suspect's arraignment on Saturday, New York Governor Kathy Hochul said such live streams were responsible for a feeding frenzy of violent extremist activity.
Terror on the train, another attack in New York City's subway system, sending a wave of fear over riders this morning.
The most efficient way to go somewhere, but you know what? It is what it is. You got to take your chances.
In broad daylight, police say a 48-year-old rider was gunned down as the Q train crossed the Manhattan Bridge Sunday. An unprovoked and fatal shot to the chest.
The suspect was walking back and forth in the same train car and without provocation pulled out a gun and fired it at the victim at close range. And what we've gotten from the witnesses, there is no prior contact between the victim and the suspect.
Dmitry Glavinsky was on board and called 911.
Everybody immediately reacted and started dispersing to the very ends of the car. Everybody huddled.
This morning, the victim's family telling NBC News Daniel Enriquez was the son of Mexican immigrants, an NYU grad who enjoyed the rich New York culture. His tragic death comes several months after a 40-year-old woman was shoved in front of the subway and 6 weeks since 10 people were shot on another train in Brooklyn, where the subway security camera system failed, complicating the search for the shooter. But this time, police say the surveillance cameras were working.
Investigators are in possession of and currently reviewing the MTA security video obtained from the station.
Murders in major cities have surged throughout the pandemic, increasing 44% since 2019. This morning, there's growing pressure on New York's mayor to fulfill his campaign promise of curbing gun violence. New York City passengers have been slow to return to public transit, at just over half of what we saw before the pandemic.
This is not what we need at a time when our city is trying to recover.
In an interview with the New York Post, the victim's family said the city is not safe, and his brother-in-law called on Mayor Eric Adams to, quote, do his job. The mayor has not responded to our request for comment, but on Sunday said in response to concerns about subway safety that the city was increasing the presence of police officers in the system. Savannah?
All right, Emily, thank you very much.
It has been 3 days since an 18-year-old man in Uvalde, Texas, attacked an elementary school and killed 21 people, 19 of them children. And while it is common for new details to emerge after the so-called fog of war lifts, the basic facts of the police response to this particular shooting have changed. And then they changed again. And today officials tried yet again to lay out a timeline of the response to this attack to an increasingly skeptical press corps and public. And this version, the one we heard today, painted a shocking picture of what now looks to be an extraordinarily inept police response that allowed the gunman to be locked in a classroom with children who were still alive for more than an hour. Here's today's version of what happened on Tuesday, May 24th. At 11:27 a.m. Central Time, a teacher at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, walks out of the building and props the door open. That teacher sees a truck crash behind the school. By 11:28 a.m., she is rushed back into the school to get her phone, leaving the door propped open. 11:30 a.m., that teacher places a call to 911. This is the first 911 call that we know of made from the school. Only 3 minutes now have passed since the shooter first arrived. Now, within a minute of that call being made, the shooter is inside, firing his weapon outside, rather, of the school, And around this time, the school resource officer arrives. And contrary to previous reports, he does not engage the shooter, but actually drives past him. 11:33 a.m. The shooter now enters the school and fires more than 100 rounds in either classroom 111 or 112. We do not know which. 2 minutes later, 11:35 a.m., 3 Uvalde police officers have entered the school, followed by 4 more for a total of 7 police officers. It has now been 8 minutes since the shooter arrived to this school. At 11:37 a.m., 16 more rounds are fired, and we do not know by whom. At 11:43 a.m., more police officers begin to arrive, and by 12:03 p.m., as many as 19 police officers have amassed in the hallway outside of the classroom where the shooter has locked himself inside with dozens of terrified 9, 10, and 11-year-old children. It is at this point, it is at this time, 12:03 p.m., that we get our second 911 call. This one, though, is from a student. She's whispering. She whispers that she is in classroom 112, and the police are still standing outside in the hallway. 33 minutes have passed since this shooter first arrived.
You have your play.
7 minutes later, the same student, that same student calls 911 again. And she is doing what every child in America has sadly been taught to do in an emergency. She tells the operator that multiple people are dead. She then places a third call to 911 3 minutes after that, 3 minutes later. And another one, 3 minutes after that one. Only this time, she's not counting the number of people who are dead. Instead, she is focused on how many students are still alive in that room. Around this time, a tactical unit now from the Border Patrol has arrived on the scene. And 2 senior law enforcement officials tell NBC News that tactical unit was instructed to wait outside by local law enforcement for at least 30 minutes. At this point, the police are still gathered in the hallway outside of the classroom. And let me just tell you, it has been now 49 minutes that have passed since the shooter first arrived. 49 minutes. At 12:19 p.m., another student calls 911. This is now the 5th call to 911 that we know of. And this student says she is in room 111. At 12:21 p.m., the suspect fires again. These shots can be heard on the 911 call. Law enforcement moves down the hallway. Another student tells the girl on the phone with 911 to hang up. She does. And at 12:36 p.m., police receive a 911 call from a student. This is the 6th 911 call they have received in regards to this incident. This call lasted only 21 seconds. She calls back, and she is told to stay on the line and to be quiet. 7 minutes later, the child makes a plea to the 911 operator, quote, "Please send the police now." Another 4 minutes pass, and the child asks one more time, quote, "Please send the police now." And 3 more minutes pass, and law enforcement finally breaches the room. Not with force, but with a key that they had asked the janitor to retrieve. At around 12:50 p.m., the shooter is killed by law enforcement. 83 minutes have passed since the shooter first arrived on the scene. That is the timeline of events that we got today from Texas officials. The first 911 call came 3 minutes after he crashed his car near the school. It would be another hour and 20 minutes before the shooter was killed by police. Enough time to murder 19 children and 2 teachers. Now, after presenting that timeline to reporters at a press conference in Uvalde, reporters pressed Texas Public Safety Director Steve McCraw for answers about why, after all those police had gathered at the scene, after all those 911 calls from children fearing for their lives were made, why did it take so long for the police to act?
Sir, you have people who are alive, children who are calling 911 saying, "Please send the police." They are alive in that classroom. There are lives that are at risk.
We're well aware of that.
Right, but why was this decision made not to go in and rescue these children?
Again, the on-scene commander considered it a barricaded subject and that there was time and there were no more children at risk. Obviously, based upon the information we have, there were children in that classroom that were at risk. And for the benefit of hindsight, where I'm sitting now, of course it was not the right decision. It was the wrong decision. Period. There's no excuse for that.
Well, you don't live in Texas.
It was the wrong decision, period. There's no excuse for that. So what happens now? How does this community, ripped apart by such tragedy, respond to this horrifying version of events that we learned about today?
So that's the news and review. Thanks for watching. Oh, I couldn't find any good news. The only good news is, tell them, Tamara.
Only good news is that I'm out of school for the summer and we can upload more videos.
Yay!
And I'll be in more videos.
So subscribe, like, and leave us a comment.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Have a good evening. Bye.